Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, May 20th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Let me just check real quickly here. Says Rumble sending the data. So I guess it's sending the data. I don't know what's the lag on Rumble. What's the deal here? Well, thank you for joining us. Those who can, hopefully. We're getting a stream up there on Rumble. Been having trouble on Rumble these last couple weeks. I don't know what is the deal. You would have thought they would have fixed it. Let me just check quickly here. Yep, we're up. Okay. What do we got today? A lot, actually. A big, beautiful golden dome announced over America. I don't know who's lobbing missiles at us, but we're going to go ahead and fund. Trump says 350 billion. Watch that balloon out of control. Is it going to stop intercontinental ballistic missiles? They say it is. He says it'll stop everything. Really? Will it stop that hypersonic Orezhnik Russian missile? Anyway, it looks like another boondoggle for the military-industrial complex. We'll go over the video. We got video from Lockheed Martin all about it. They're excited about it, as who else wouldn't be with getting $1 billion paychecks thrown around here now. What else do we got? Quite a bit today, actually. That someone in the government actually got in trouble. It wasn't for any of the stuff we even know or care about. A retired four-star admiral, Robert Burke, convicted in bribery scheme. I'll take it, but I mean, that's like literally nothing in the grand scheme of things. We'll take it. But they're all guilty, like literally all of them. Bunch of hearings going on today. DHS, ICE Barbie doesn't know what habeas corpus is. We have that video. We have a lot of public health news actually today. I don't know how we have to be careful about how we report on the YouTube there, as not to run afoul of the community guidelines. So we'll report in the politically correct way for them about all of the happenings in the public health. Bobby Kennedy he had a hearing, has some pretty good takes from that. They're scaling way back on the miracle, but it's still out there on the market. Yeah, these jokers at the FDA had a talk today. They're beyond the pale, honestly. I don't think we'll even play any of that. I'll provide the link for those that want to go watch, but it makes me want to throw up. Maha MAGA, no, actually, pretty damn near status quo. What else? We got economic news. No Tax on Tips Act actually did pass the Senate. So that's good news for Trump agenda on that front. Moody's cuts deposit ratings on major banks after downgrading U.S. That's not good. More economic news. We've got geopolitical news as usual. Little Marco, he was at a hearing today. He's saying that Syria may be on the verge of a full-scale civil war after Trump was just praising their reformed radical jihadist leader. So that's a strange turn of events. We'll go over that a little bit more today. There's a Julian Assange sighting Julian Assange showed up too. Oh no, I'm sorry. Was this old? Yeah, it was old. Anyway, we'll show it anyway. Yeah, and the genocide continues there in Gaza. It's quite horrific. UK is says they stopped free trade negotiations due to their outrage, and they say they suspended arms sales also to aardvarks that could be used in Gaza. Aren't they quite the humanitarians there in the UK? And they just keep upping it. We got this guy on Channel 14, Aardvark News, talking about the enemy is not Hamas. Every child, every baby in Gaza is the enemy. And we had that one yesterday or the day before yesterday saying that they have to kill every child. It's like, yeah, don't be an anti-aardvark. I wonder why they're losing support around the world. It's shocking. It's due to anti-aardvarkism. More to this about Trump's frustrated now, it's being reported. Washington Compost said from anonymous sources that there was a riff. Reported on that. I said I didn't believe it. Maybe there is a riff. I don't know. Now Axios is reported. Trump is frustrated by the war in Gaza, upset by images of suffering Palestinian children. Who was it? Remember back to Syria? It was either Melania or his daughter Ivanka supposedly saw children in Syria injured by chemical weapons, and that was enough to convince him to launch those strikes on Syria. Something like that was the story. We'll show the images. They're never ending. It's basically war porn all over the interweb. Show those to your wife and daughter there and see how they feel about those, Trump. So, yeah, I'm still not buying it. They got over $200 million into him. And so, not buying it. But this is the narrative that is being reported out there. All right. We got Thomas from Alpha Mega Energy on the line with us today. I emailed Barry. Haven't heard back. I emailed him twice so far. Haven't heard anything back. Ruckus says he's doing okay. So shout out to Ruckus. He's recovered now. There he is in the YouTube. Hello, Ruckus. Yep, and I can see your guys' chat coming through on the Rumble as well. Okay, let me get to this day in history. I found this. This is back in the day, right? On this day of May 20th, back in 1521, Ignatius Loyola was seriously injured by a cannonball. That's going way back when they're shooting cannonballs at each other. In 1861, North Carolina becomes the 11th state and last state to secede from the Union, leading up to the Civil War. And remember, you know how I always say they've always been spying on us? They've always been spying on us. In 1861, U.S. Marshals, in search of secessionist evidence, seized the previous year's telegraph dispatches. They've been spying on us since we had telegraphs, for God's sake. The only secure message is write it on a piece of paper and then destroy that paper after the message is received. And then probably whoever got the message will go tell the damn government. It's just beyond the pale. And that's going to tie into a later report here that I have. In 1862, Lincoln signs into law the Homestead Act to provide cheap land for the settlement of the American West. 80 million acres by the year 1900. In 1942, the U.S. Navy first permitted black recruits to serve. In 1954, Chiang Kai-shek becomes the president of Nationalist China. In 1956, atomic fusion thermonuclear bomb was dropped by the United States from a plane on the Bikini Atoll. In 1961, white mob attacks freedom riders in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1970, 100,000 march in New York supporting U.S. policies in Vietnam. What a bunch of idiots those people are. Literally, the Vietnam War was started by the hoax of the Gulf of Tonkin, erroneous reports of attacks on U.S. Naval ship Maddox, and the event literally never happened. So there you go. In 1985, FBI arrests John A. Walker Jr., convicted of spying for the USSR. So again, at one level, it's all fake. At another level, it's all very real. You understand? In 1989, China declares martial law in Beijing. In 1993, and this ties in with news of the day, in 1993, the 274th and final episode of Cheers aired on NBC. And the Norm from Cheers died today. So isn't that a odd coincidence? And then, did I already erase it? I hate when I do that. Well, back to 1966. On this day, the big Snoop. That was a story. That was a cover story of Life magazine exposing government spying. A Life magazine cover story, the big Snoop, exposed intrusive surveillance by federal agencies, including the IRS and the post office. This is 1966. The story was based on the hearings by Missouri Senator Edward versus Long and reflected growing public concern about privacy and the dangers of government snooping. The full story of spying and other abuses by the federal intelligence agencies was not known until the post-Watergate investigations by the Senate Church Committee and the House Pike Committee. The Church Committee published a set of reports documenting the violations of rights of Americans by several federal agencies, the FBI, wiretapping, electronic surveillance, opening mail, the CIA opening mail, secretly funding individual writers and reporters and funding organizations, the post office opening mail, and various branches of the military. All the Church Committee reports all were exposed during the Church Committee. So there you go. And that's old. So imagine what they do now. Well, we know what they do now. Everything's wiretapped illegally with no warrant. They laugh at the Fourth Amendment. They're literally all criminals violating our constitutional rights, civil rights, natural rights. They don't care. No one ever gets in trouble. And so they'll continue the tyranny. Here's let's see here. Here's the Life magazine cover from May 20th, 1966. So you can see this has been going on a long time here now in America and being exposed, and no one cares. You know what I mean? So there you go, the big Snoop. And they go through, oh yeah, isn't it cute? This guy's looking through a microscope, magnifying glass, rigging up a bug there, master eavesdropper. And so they show you all right here, literally mocking you, rubbing in your face, CIA Life magazine, and nothing happens. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and play the segue. We'll play the segue of United States illegally and unconstitutionally bombing Somalia. They're proudly putting it out on the White House X account. They say, we haven't forgotten the threat posed by jihadists. 10 more were permanently removed from the battlefield in Somalia yesterday. That brings the total to over 100 bloodthirsty terrorists killed since President Trump was sworn in. They're bragging about it, right? We don't know anything. We don't know who these guys are. We have to trust the lying government's word that they're righteous in killing these people. It's just beyond the pale, man. It says WWFY, WWKY. We will find you and we will kill you. That's from the White House. Here's the video of them killing God knows who, alleged jihadists in Somalia. That's great due process there. You know what I mean? Oh, they said Palantir said you're a terrorist. Well, we're going to drone you. There you go. Coming to America soon. Literally bragging about it on White House official X account. There you go. It's truly disgusting. This is not something you brag about. Even if it was all totally 100% legitimate, I don't see how it could possibly be. But even if it was, it's not something that you brag about. But they are here at the White House now. Thomas from Alpha Mega Energy, how you doing this Tuesday? No audio.
There we go. I'm muted. Here we go. Yes, good to be on Weaponized News. Hello to everybody today. It's another amazing day in our clown world of economics, though amazing things happening with Trump's policies, the economic policies. And today I've got a bunch of, I will cover a bunch of basics in the fundamentals of economics and the stock market, interest rates, interest rate policy, international investing into currency, dollar, gold, and what's going on. I'll cover a bunch on that because there's the massive fever pitch, as we always see from these corrupt manipulators, stock manipulators, commodity and currency manipulators at the big investment banks, the Rothschild investment banks, that were famous for rigging the gold price up to 1900 before, rigging oil. People forget in 2008, they rigged the price of oil, Goldman Sachs did, up to $148 a barrel and shut down the entire world economy, ground it to a halt. And that they were criminally fined, and even their ability to trade in the oil markets was stripped from them permanently. And also the massive scandal with gold, and they're doing it again. Just different firms are doing it this time. And of course, they're all collaborating together to try to bring down the stock prices and blame it on Trump. So that is kind of interesting what they're doing now. And the echo chamber is at a fever pitch on all of their media, which they control and own 90+% of the media, of course, thousands of networks internationally. So they're endlessly just parroting this one uniform message. And there's a lot of evidence that despite this, it's not working. So it's really quite amazing to see that it's not working. And Trump, in Trump's policies, the Trump effect is miraculously holding all of this up like some kind of helicopter that is keeping the markets up by some kind of crane from the sky. It's quite incredible, the effect of it. So we'll get into that, unravel some of this. I think people will get some better education from what we'll cover today. Hello, Chloe. I see Chloe saying hello.
All
Nice
right,
to
let's get to all the news here. Next up is from Trump, and then it's going to tie in with the whole transhumanist, Internet of Things, technocracy, takeover agenda. We must maintain our status as the worldwide leader in Wi-Fi, 5G, 6G, connecting every American to the world's best networks while also keeping everyone safe. We can do both at the same time. Bottom line, I'm going to free up plenty of spectrum for auction so Congress can put 600 millihertz in the one big beautiful bill. Let's make sure all options are on the table. Never bet against America. Ingenuity, make America great again. But the problem with all this 5G, 6G networks is that it's part of it's DARPA created by the military, and they're going to use it to roll out the old Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies. And so it's really nothing nice coming our way. Continuing, finally somebody in the government, this guy wasn't even in the government, got in trouble. Few and far between. Retired four-star Admiral Robert Burt convicted in bribery scheme. A jury on Monday convicted a retired four-star admiral who served as the U.S. Navy's second highest ranking officer on corruption charges for steering contracts to a company in exchange for a lucrative job. Burke ordered staff to award $355,000 contract to a company and then began working there at a $500,000 a year salary after his retirement in 2022 from the Navy, the Justice Department said. And so here he is. This is the little scraps of corruption that they throw to us. And look what they got, this four-star general on. This is literally nothing in the grand scheme of things. He paid a company and then got a little kickback. It's literally nothing. But there you go. Somebody in the government finally got in trouble for something. He wasn't even in the government. He was retired. And then, wouldn't you know, U.S. Attorney drops case. That's the old, the Trump appointed one. The heck's her name? Haba. U.S. Attorney Haba. They've dropped the charges here now. U.S. Attorney drops case against Newark Mayor Ras Baraka after, remember, they raided that ICE facility there in Newark, New Jersey, a bunch of Democrats. And we're like, wow, they're going to finally hold these Democrats accountable. They're running around lawless, trespassing and interfering with ICE. And nah, they're going to drop the charges. So literally no one gets in trouble. U.S. has completed production of its new B-61-13 nuclear bomb nearly a year ahead of schedule, designed for advanced jets and the B-21 bomber. It marks the sixth upgrade of the B-61 series since 1968. Here's a picture of the bombers, the engineers, and the bomb. Isn't that wonderful? Congratulations. And then the big story of the day, the Golden Dome. Trump is promising a Golden Dome of missile defense shield over America, similar to the Iron Dome over Aardvark land. Let's watch from his press conference today about his, what's this Golden Dome? And then we have a video from Lockheed Martin, who stands to make billions and billions off of this.
I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs, and it was very successful, and now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the one big, beautiful bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed.
What a deal! What a deal! Let's see now the video from Lockheed Martin's all over it. Don't you worry, they stand to make billions off of this. The Golden Dome for America, a shield for the nation. From Lockheed Martin.
Watchtower, this is Looking Glass. We have a missile launch detection.
Confirmed. We have missile warning. Confirmed threat and report confidence.
Continuous tracking confirmed. Inbound threat confidence is high.
Engagement authorized. Confirm target and initiate interceptor launch.
Confirmed. Single missile interceptor away. Green interceptor on track and link established. Interceptor onboard targeting active. Multiple objects detected. Target assignment initiated. Verified. All target objects assigned. Intercept in 3, 2, 1. Watchtower, this is Looking Glass. System has confirmed intercept.
We confirm. All target objects eliminated. Moving to status screen.
There you go. Lockheed Martin saved America, and we didn't even know it. But how do we even know any of this is real? For all we know, it's just all fake and real highly produced videos. And say they really did shoot a rocket at us. Would they even, and it was all real, and they really could stop hypersonic missiles. Would they even use it, or would they just let us get hit? I think these evil damn governments would just let us get hit, honestly. What are your thoughts on this, Thomas? Is the Golden Dome legit? What do you think?
Well, somebody's got to shoot down Adam Pile of Shifts, right? His balloons that he was making, flying with Kolomoisky. Remember that? Somebody's
it took like 2 weeks or something. We were tracking it, and it was, yeah, that was stupid.
Right. Remember when Adam Pile of Shift lost his security clearance for his balloons at right, China balloons, and China just sat there and they didn't say anything. Yet he's been working with Kolomoisky for a long time with these balloons and flown them all over the place. Has a big history of that, record of that. So, you know, and of course, you get all these rogue drones. America is sending up thousands, literally thousands of these balloon satellites a year. Columbia University alone sends up like 2,500 of them every single year. NASA's the biggest purchaser of helium in the entire world. And that's all for balloon satellites, though nobody talks about this, right? And isn't that interesting? And of course, Google had their own balloon satellite program, and Facebook had their own balloon satellite program, and FakeX has their own balloon satellite program as well. And Elon Musk is now talking about that. So, maybe, right, with all of this happening, and now maybe China doing some of that too, finally, a couple of their balloon satellites overhead. Well, hey, you got to have something able to shoot them down with that massive scandal. And they had to shoot some of them, the lower one, the ones that were coming down into airplane airspace, which is a threat to the airplanes. So they had jets go up and shoot them down. Some people might remember that, where they blew apart on video. They actually had it on video. They blew this one rig underneath the gigantic balloon, small football stadium sized balloon. They blew the rig to pieces underneath it with a direct hit there. So there was that video. So somebody's got to do that. So they want to be able to do this with some kind of other system and have a comprehensive defense. Because also, what if you have these balloons that are higher than the planes can fly? Planes can only go so high. So it is a security risk. There's no doubt about it. And nobody can trust China, and nobody can trust these other.
They're saying the Golden Dome will shoot down weapons shot at us from space. Even it's just like, it's it's a utopia of defense, and I just don't believe it. I'm sorry.
Well, you could certainly do it. I mean, I could do it. I mean, it's not a very difficult thing to do.
No, I'm saying they won't do it though.
Oh, they won't do anything, just like Fake X and everything else.
They'll stand down. Yeah.
A rocket show of some kind, right? A Jeff Bezos fake pod with Katy Perry opening a fake door twice, and then Bezos, somebody at the Golden Dome department will have to sue one of the actors one of the prop-up actors. They'll have to sue them because they screwed up the demo.
That was a good segue. Talk about actors. Old Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem, dog killer. She's floated the idea of having this Hunger Games, some kind of reality survivor show for immigrants to, if you win, you win citizenship to America. Anyway, that's a good segue too. Here's her testimony. She doesn't know what habeas corpus is. I guess we should define it for her before we show the clip here. But you would think that Ice Barbie, the head of Department of Homeland Security, would know something about individual rights, but apparently they don't care. Like, they could at least act like they care, but they don't care. Habeas corpus is a legal principle in court order that protects individuals from unlawful detention and requires a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or court to determine if their detention is lawful. Latin for "you shall have the body." It ensures that government justifies holding someone in custody, safeguarding against arbitrary imprisonment. It's the cornerstone of due process in our legal system. Well, who cares about that? Here's Ice Barbie.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the live free or die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection?
She has a Ukraine pin on. It's all these people are a freaking joke, man.
That habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone.
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though,
it has
that this
never
president...
been done. It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from.
How come, Highland says, how come Trump picks all the babes? I don't know. He's like, he was the owner of Miss Universe and all this. He likes hot chicks. They're a very good distraction from all the nonsense that goes on when everybody's saying, check out that hot chick. You know what I mean? Okay, public health news, Thomas. We have to be very careful about our reporting here for YouTube. We almost worked off our strike over there, and we don't need another strike. But thankfully, thank the Lord, we're blessed by the World Health Organization. Tedros announced late yesterday or early today, depending on where you are in the world, that the pandemic accord is officially adopted by the World Health Assembly. And here's a video of them cheering. And so this is the greatest blessing on public health the world's ever known. There you go. And so it did indeed pass. I think it's so convoluted. I think there's like one more thing they got to do for it. Who adopts landmark pandemic agreement? But it feels like I was trying to follow it, but I was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? At this point, the WHO member states today adopted a landmark pandemic agreement on tackling future health crises after more than 3 years of negotiation. That was what I was trying to follow, the whole 3 years of negotiation. It's ridiculous. Sparked by the shock of the bats. The accord aims to prevent the disjointed response and international disarray that surrounded the bat problem by approving global coordination and surveillance and access to miracles in the future of more bat attacks. And so the U.S. is out right now, but hey, Trump's going to burn everybody out as the game goes, and they're going to be cheering for a Democrat. And a Democrat at some point is going to get back in there, and they're going to jump right back into the WHO. And look what we're under. Isn't this very special? Almost like this could have been the plan the whole time. Hey, Trump, get out of the WHO because that's popular. You know it's popular with your base. And then we're going to go in and pass this thing globally. And then when we get the next guy in there, he's going to just jump right back in. No problem. You're under one world government health policy dictated by the WHO. Thank you very much for saving everybody there.
Right, out of sight, out of mind. It's all happening behind him, so then nobody even has to deal with it at all. There's
the U.S. has nothing to say about it. We're out, right? But we can easily jump right back in.
Right, it'll be instantly done the second that there's a the very first democrat that comes in. It's game over. That's it.
Game over. You're under world government public health policy at that point. Thank you very much. FDA poised to restrict access to miracles. Oh my gosh. I'm shaking over here. That's the New York Times. I don't know if YouTube lets you report the New York Times, but agency leaders said there was evidence to justify approval only for older people and those with medical conditions. Many others may not be able to get the miracle. I know.
And the policy should be exactly opposite to that. Of course, it's the strongest, the healthiest people that will be able to resist the damage caused by the miracles. The old and the vulnerable, the weaker people, who will be more susceptible to any damage, any of the side effects. Those are the people you should not give these to.
Well, we know the eugenics dystopian Orwellian agenda is to target the most vulnerable while they claim that's who they care about the most. And so we do appreciate the Orwellian nature of their public health policy.
And of course, the black and brown people internationally in the developing world, as the Memorandum 200 policy stated, and as Bill Gates said, overpopulation is the greatest existential threat to Israel and the NATO allies, and thus America, the well-zogged America. So you need to focus on that. We got to make sure that they all get their miracles so that they don't get the bad guano boogeyman in the sky.
Okay, Bobby Kennedy, let's see. He He has good rhetoric. I still want to believe in Bobby Kennedy, but I just have a hard time. Let's go through some clips from his hearings today.
Senator, I want to point out that in 2021, at the beginning of his administration, President Biden submitted his budget on May. You know what? You made an accusation of me, and I'm going to answer it.
Okay, I appreciate
On May
that.
28th, he submitted his budget. So our budget. We're a new administration.
Okay, you can go
And I
down
also
that
want to
road.
point
I
out.
have just 2 minutes left. I asked you a specific
I want to
question.
point out something, Senator. You presided here, I think, for 32 years. You presided over the destruction of the health of the American people.
Well, I have
Our people are now the
Mr.
sickest people in the
Secretary,
world.
seriously.
Because you have
Mr.
not done your
Secretary,
job.
Seriously. That is an
What have you
amazing
done about it? What have you
Mr.
done about the
Secretary,
epidemic
I am here
of
to
chronic
ask-
disease?
Mr. Secretary,
What have
are
you done
here in
about the epidemic
Mr.
of chronic
Secretary,
disease?
Seriously, Madam
Secretary,
Chairman.
I would ask it to hold back.
It is good theater there, calling her out to her face, and still nothing happens. She'll win re-election again. Everything you said there's true. It doesn't matter. That's like, okay, more from Kennedy.
They're
Driven by
beyond question. Science, right? How dare you question, right? It's all the fake authoritarianism, control and manipulation.
how do you continue? How do you stay in office 30 years, like you said, facing an epidemic of chronic disease, and you're the chair of the health committee? I don't even know which one that was. Like, you're a total failure, but yet you're still reelected. How does this happen? It's almost like electronic voting machines or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to more from the
You can't question the machines. I mean,
I know.
The big Coinbase data breach that just happened. That definitely is impossible to happen to the machines. To right. I mean, all of the client data for all of Coinbase.
Everything's always
completely breached and leaked. But the one computer system in the whole world that definitely has zero evidence of systemic fraud is definitely this elections machines, the most crucial and the most significant system, of course, that every cyber criminal internationally, especially every state actor, would be after hacking and controlling. Of course, the ultimate prize. And with the weakest, very clearly, as evidenced in court and stated by judges, the most absolutely weak security platform and design and engineering design. So weak, in fact, that the Wisconsin judges ruled that it's been deliberately set up to facilitate fraud. And so there'd be so much plausible deniability because the thing is such a sieve. There's so many ways to get in and create so many problems that it's very clearly been designed, engineered for fraud. Anybody concerned with IT security in any respect never would have done it that way. And many of the top security analysts testified to that in courts.
I trust the voting machines.
Vote hard.
Why do we allow highly processed foods in America?
That's a complicated question, but it's driven by profits, but to a food industry that is making money by poisoning American kids, and they don't do it abroad. They make the same products for Canada and for Europe that do not contain many of those chemicals.
It's fine.
Don't worry, just go to Alex Jones' store right now and buy your toxic, cancer-causing, carcinogenic blue dyes. But it's quote, it's not blue dye, but it is. So
here you go. Placebo-controlled trials, gold standard of science, from Kennedy here.
The Cochrane collaboration in 2016 published a study that showed that the predictive capacity of placebo-controlled trials, which are the gold standard, is actually not any better than good observational trials and retrospective trials. So we can do those kind of studies without subjecting people to an unethical experiment. The Cochrane collaboration.
Okay.
without subjecting people to an unethical experiment. Yet they have they pay, literally have these centers. You can find them on Google Maps, and we showed them on Weaponized News. If people remember, I showed them on multiple shows before during the fraudemic. We showed the locations of just some of the facilities where you can get paid to be a government guinea pig, to have all kinds of biological agents tested on you. You can get paid good money for that, and they often pay prisoners for this as well. So they're willing to test on people, and they have these facilities all over the world, right? In dozens, even hundreds of countries, as has been revealed and stated by congressmen on C-SPAN. They have these facilities, and they pay guinea pigs to have these agents tested on them. So, but they can't. It's supposedly it's unethical to actually do a challenge study on it on anyone. Well, what did you think that they're actually doing in any of these places? They're not testing anything on anybody. Of course they are.
Science.
Of course, right. Of course they've done it. Of course they've already done these studies. And you notice none of that information ever comes out, sees the light of day, comes to the public, comes to the medical journals. It's all classified information. It's all clandestine operations. None of those, the results of any of those tests, or any details whatsoever on what those tests are overseas from any of those labs, hundreds of them, have ever seen the public light of day.
Well, it's all for public health. Here's a public health warning for everybody. Ex-FDA chief reveals terrifying effects he suffered from Ozempic. I think we can talk bad about Ozempic. I don't know, maybe not. It's the greatest. It's the miracle fat drug, right? After shedding 60 pounds, he says it made him ill. Former FDA chief Dr. David Kessler has revealed some terrifying side effects he suffered while on the weight loss drug. Well, I would trust this guy who's 60 pounds overweight. I would trust him for health advice, right? He's a doctor, don't you know?
But those are peptides. Those are peptides, and they insist that they're injecting peptides into us with these SARS-CoV-2 injections. Those are
peptides. Here he is. This is Ozempic, though, Thomas.
Well, how could you question Ozempic if you're not allowed to question the peptides in the COVID shots?
I don't know. This guy seems like a top guy that took it, and he's saying that it wasn't good for him. He said he felt cold. He had to wear an electric blanket. Here's the side effects. All the reported side effects linked to Ozempic. Suicidal thoughts, that's fine.
Yeah, Trudeau's got that covered. Don't worry.
Fatigue, headaches, dizziness, ketoacidosis, alcohol, food, coffee avoidance, aspiration, pneumonia, vivid dreams, cancer. That's fine. They have a new miracle for the cancer, so that's fine. Sexual dysfunction, fertility boost. Some were reported. Muscle loss, hair loss, Ozempic face. You look like a strung out junkie.
Ozempic face.
Ozempic face, Ozempic breasts, organ damage, kidney damage, gallstones, pancreatitis, digestive issues, flatulence, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, bad breath, burps, metallic taste, bowel blockage, obstruction right there. They even put a little red dot so you can see that little red dot right there. That means it hurts your tummy. And so, yeah, it's bad news, man, but it's the hippest, coolest thing out there is to get all sucked up like a junkie, like a strung out junkie on Ozempic. But we've been warning here. And so we did our public service announcements and duty for that.
I went to go get a Ozempic mask, because to fight the flatulence.
Just be aware.
Remember those little nose masks that they had? They're going to bring those back out.
Could work.
But hey, the shedding doesn't exist, so nothing to worry about, I guess, folks. Right?
A couple more public health stories here. Coming to a brain near you, a tiny computer. In the next 12 months, the number of people with brain-computer interfaces is set to double. Brain-computer interfaces are already letting people with paralysis, as we've reported here, control computers and communicate their needs, and will soon enable them to manipulate prosthetic limbs without moving a muscle. Thankfully, Apple has okayed interfaces with the iPhone. So now you can, if you get that brain chip, you can go ahead and operate your iPhone with it, thanks to Apple's philanthropy. And continuing here, there are dozens of so-called neurotech startups. 4 led the field of implants, Paradronomics, Psychron, Precision Nanoscience, and of course, everybody's favorite, world's richest man, Elon Musk's Neuralink, which in some ways is the most ambitious of the 4. All but Paraomics have reached the point at which they're putting the tech inside people's heads. Each has its own approach, and all offer reasons they believe their product will come out ahead. All 4 are betting they'll eventually become a part of standard care for tens of thousands and perhaps even millions. The prize thereafter, Morgan Stanley projects $1 billion a year brain computer implant on the market by the year 2041. And so isn't this exciting when you'll just be able to go down to the kiosk at the mall and have a humanoid AI driven robot do surgery on you and implant a brain chip? Won't this be awesome? What a bright future we're looking towards here.
Well, hey, everything to get on the Everything app, right?
The Internet of Things. Here's a breakthrough surgery. In a surgical first, doctors successfully transplant human bladder at UCLA Medical Center. Surgeons at UCLA and USC performed the world's first successful human bladder transplant, marking a major milestone in organ transplantation. The patient, who had been on dialysis for several years due to kidney and bladder loss from cancer, received a new kidney and bladder in an 8-hour surgery, restoring natural urinary function. Bladder transplants could offer a more natural alternative to current reconstructive surgeries, but are currently limited to patients already needing immune suppression due to transplant-related risks. So that just happened, May 4th of this year, so a couple of weeks ago back. So isn't that wonderful? No report on how long the patient will live doing all of these with a bladder transplant, but that is a breakthrough in surgery. Okay, on to, we got the economic section. I know, Thomas, you said you had a report to give us about that. We do have quite a bit of economic news. Right before we came on air, a few hours before, Senate unexpectedly passes the No Tax on Tips Act in a unanimous vote. So it was bipartisan, so it must not be good. No tips on taxes. Some of the details: the legislation would create a new tax deduction worth up to $25,000 for tips, limited to cash tips that workers report to employers for withholding purposes on payroll taxes. The tax break is also restricted to employees who earn $160,000 a year or less, and the amount will rise with inflation in the coming years. And so it passed the Senate 100-0, surprisingly enough. That was a campaign promise that Trump made, and it looks like it's going to actually become a law here now. So surprising. But I guess even Democrats realize that tax on tips is popular. How about taxation theft and end all individual income tax? We'll never get there, I don't think, but okay. we're right at the top. Let's take our live commercial break now, and then we'll get into the economic news on the other side. So we don't go too far over. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com, get yourself some stickers. And I did find, here's the holograph sticker, and I did find the clear background. You can see right there. This one's kind of tore up. It's old. It's a sample, but you'll get a clean one, the clear background, and of course the white background as well. All three here on weaponizednews.com. Go there and give us a donation, buy a sticker, give us some support at weaponizednews.com. We truly appreciate it. And now let's go to our sponsor, Abazaba Enterprises, and then we'll come back and have Thomas plug.
Running a small business feeling overwhelmed by numbers and paperwork? Abazaba Enterprises has your back. Our expert business solutions include accounting, QuickBooks support, payroll, taxes, and top-notch consulting. Let us handle the details so you can focus on growing your business. Business Solutions Accounting, QuickBooks, Consulting, Payroll, Taxes. Call 559-577-9250. Call Abazaba Enterprises today at 559-577-9250.
And Alpha Omega Energy is my breakthrough clean energy technology startup, where I've made more than 5,600 new energy and energy-related technologies, made some more in the last 24 hours. Good number in the last few days, continuously making new energy technology at a regular pace. And we're looking for angel investors, and I'm chasing them continuously, daily, through my workday. On LinkedIn and other places. And this is a bit of what we're doing. The stock market is at record highs. It makes a lot of sense for people to cash in. And gold at massive record highs in a massive unprecedented leverage bubble makes sense for people to cash in, diversify, buy low and sell high, right? So at the highest highs of highs, you can sell what you got, and maybe you want to look for some high-tech startups in the emerging markets where the growth is massive and the stocks haven't had the run-up. We'll go into that more here. So for those who want to know more, just reach out to me at AOEVC Breakthrough on X or Telegram at AOE Black Swan, and you can find out how we can change the future together for humanity and make this get off some of this toxic oil and these massive oil deals. It'd be better to have true energy independence for humanity, finally, once and for all. So I'm working on that.
That's right. We like our petroleum in our food, Thomas, not in our fuel tanks.
We love our Rockefellers, yeah, in our food and in our meds, and right, to take as much as we can.
Love our Rockefeller medicine and food, and basically control over everything.
Choking us out as antioxidants. What could be better than choking yourself out, starving your body of oxygen with Rockefeller antioxidants from the oil field?
It's all wonderful. Okay, Moody's cuts deposit ratings on major banks after downgrade of U.S. credit rating. Moody's rating cut its rating for deposits at Bank of America, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, the big three. I don't see Citi there. No, it doesn't look like somehow Citi stayed out of the mix, but they've downgraded now one step lower to capital A, lowercase a 2. It's Moody's third highest level of credit rating there. And somehow Citibank stayed out of the mix. And so I guess they're good. So yeah,
you're right. Citibank, who's bankrupted before. So now you have the American government being rated lower than private companies, tiny little private companies. So of course, Bassett said that.
Well, it's because of this. We're approaching $1.5 trillion on annual interest payments. That's over $4,000 per year per U.S. citizen. And so the U.S. Treasuries rose to 5% and 10 year treasuries rose to, or 30-year treasury rose to 5%, and a 10-year rose to 4.52%. So they have to pay more for the debt they're selling because the credit rating is down, making it more risky to buy the debt. So there you go.
Well, they claim it's more risky. At least they claim that, right? And
that's what they claim. That's why the rates have to go up. Even DC
to think that. Remember all the years that they're endlessly complaining through, right, the 2000s, and maybe until about 2016 or so, maybe even a little bit, maybe 2018. They're endlessly complaining for a good 18-year stretch there, at least, that the interest rates are too low. Retirees are starving. They don't have enough interest to eat. We need to get interest rates up. We need to get interest rates up so that the retirees can eat, because they all get paid on bonds there, right? Remember
That's
that?
a good segue right here. Mortgage rates jump above 7% after Moody's downgrade of U.S. credit. And so this is a funny line. The timing is really not ideal for prospective home buyers, economists say. You think? I want to jump right in and buy a home and get a big old mortgage on it with 7% interest. Nah, probably not. Probably not.
That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to orchestrate the pop of the housing bubble again, as they do every 18 years. Is
it every 18 years? We can set our clock by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pull the chart up as well.
So the 30-year fixed rate mortgage remains elevated at 7.04%. So, yeah. And we reported here, like the new first-time buyer home average now in America is $1 million. And so a lot of young people trying to start a family and get their first home are just priced out of the market at this point. And they need to do something to remedy this. Maybe Pop the Bubble can remedy this situation, Thomas.
You know, you have all of the elites have gotten out of the market. And the reason that they've gotten out of the market, of course, is because they're going to cash and short-term instruments so that they can pop the housing market and then drive down the price of stocks, and then they can buy back in when they want to. This is not the 18-year chart. We'll find that a little bit later. You want me to cover this stuff now? I can do that.
No, I still got a couple more stories here. The old Smithsonian, knowing now for covering up history, essentially. There's stories out there. The Smithsonian back in the day went around, collected all the giant skulls. They've like all kind of controversial things. They go out there and they cover up, and there's stories about it, but it's all swept under the rug for our own safety, of course. But the Smithsonian has also the Smithsonian Institute, the world's largest museum complex, boasting 21 museums and a national zoo, has lost its top-tier credit ranking. And so they've been downgraded as well to a capital A, lowercase a, 1. And so it's very sad to see there. The federal funds, the Smithsonian is operating on 51% federal funding. And so with that funding tied to the U.S. federal government, their credit rating has been decreased along with the federal government. So, yeah, costs more.
You're ending up with companies with a better credit rating than the American government, which is just absolutely absurd. So you have Scott Bassett, who's saying that he doesn't really put any stock into the Moody's analysis there, the claim of that, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So and it really doesn't make sense. How do you have a lower credit rating for the American government? I mean, this is clearly manipulation, orchestration by these investment banks for a purpose, right? And they've always been manipulators. That people they don't really want to think of these companies as manipulators, market manipulators. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. They wouldn't do that. But right, of course
No,
they would.
I trust the big banks. What are you talking about?
Right, with their endless, there's there's no industry more criminally convicted, other than pharma, than the financial industry, the American financial industry, actually. So,
And that's why they're trusted.
right, endless scandals, and of course, covered up in the media. Right, I named two of the biggest financial scandals in history, which they were caught for, but nobody went to jail. Of course, the gold rigging, where they orchestrated endlessly promising that gold's going to go to 3,000 and gold's going to go to 2,000, 2,100 in 6 weeks. Goldman Sachs saying, endlessly propagating this. The entire fear porn, buy gold, is a fever pitch, just like it is now. And meanwhile, they're all orchestrating behind the scenes privately in their secret communications to their entire book of clients, all of these elite central bankers and investment banks, BlackRock, Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, and Citibank, JP Morgan, all of these people orchestrating at the same time to dump gold, right? And at the same time, they're selling this to the general public. So the general public were the suckers, the exit liquidity to dump all of this, and they got caught. Those communications eventually were found, and they successfully were selling all of this to everybody at the peak of the market, and then they drove the prices down to 1,100, and then they came back in heavily, and then they ran it up again. And they're doing the exact same thing right now. They're exiting at the top right now as we speak, and selling it at fever pitch to everybody. And at the same time that the dollar is strengthening. And
well, did you see yesterday it was announced the Federal Reserve is starting quantitative easing again? And so the Federal Reserve, I reported it yesterday, I reported it again because it is significant here, that the Federal Reserve has bought $43.6 billion in U.S. Treasuries over the last, say 2 weeks. So
yeah, it'd be great.
Quantitative easing is back.
It'd be fantastic if they did it again.
They are doing it.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
I don't think it is fantastic. I think it's a failed monetary policy at that point.
Well, it certainly worked, and people don't realize that because it's such a completely one-sided narrative in the media about this.
Okay, give us your economic report. Okay. Are we ready for this chart?
I don't have that chart up just yet, but we'll get to it. We'll cover that one. Well, let's do this first. We can go through this here. So I got all my slides on here, so I don't need to change off of my keynote presentation here. So I saw some people flying around these numbers here. The U.S. dollar is overweight, OW, overweight, or underweight, UW.
It needs Ozempic.
Yeah, yeah, right. If it was overweight, but it's underweight. So what that means is there's more short positions on the U.S. dollar since May of 2006.
And what does that mean? What does that mean, short positions?
So that means that people that are betting, investors are betting that the U.S. dollar is going to decrease in value. It's going to be less in value in general. And that can happen from a number of things. But these dollar doomers, they never tell you the truth about that. They're all pushing a narrative, and all these investment banks are pushing a narrative. All of Europe, all the enemies of America are pushing this narrative to hate the U.S. dollar, that the dollar is going to collapse, to weaken America's strength. All the enemies of America are doing that to try to weaken the American economy. Of course, China is pumping massive money into this garbage as well. All of this, Zionist entities, whatnot, pushing this, and all these manipulators pushing this. right? And the currency manipulators like Soros and all of these people, they do this, and they do this through their massive media network. So they say, okay, there's more people short U.S. dollar than ever, and what they want you to think from that is to think, oh my God, it's going to go down then because everybody's betting against it. But actually, and that's how they're selling this. But that's not the entire story. The other part of the story is the fact that okay, here we are here in May of 2025, and we're oversold. So everybody's short, but we see through the history when there's massive short positions, there's nobody new that's going to come on a short. Everybody that is going to short is shorting. There's not like a huge number of more people that are going to come on in short. So then what ends up happening is those short positions unravel. It's the peak. It's the capitulation. It's everybody. It's the crowded trade. Everybody's in the same trade. There's nobody else that can come in into that trade. There's nobody else that's going to. Not everybody's going to buy the same stock or sell the same stock. You can assume it'll be 50-50. And when something is completely out of balance in the markets, it's always going to reverse. It's going to go the other way in general, because it's already it might slide a little bit more, but you're going to have a reversal, and that's a very important indicator in the markets. But these people that with an agenda to sell you, they're never going to tell you the truth about that. So here we see in 2006, which they're comparing it to, and we were oversold, more short positions than ever. And what happened? That position unraveled, and you had a massive jump from 82 all the way up to 90, right? A 10% increase, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15% increase in the dollar immediately after that. And the dollar's right back up again. So they're not telling the truth about this, right? It's a one-sided agenda, and they always do this, right? It's the A scam, B scam, the counterintelligence, the manipulation. It's their job to manipulate you. But these kind of things, they don't get in trouble for it. They take their position, right? They will buy the dollar, then they're going to manipulate you. They need to dump to somebody and get somebody else to bet on the opposite position. So they get you to short, and then they have the long, and you're the sucker, you're the exit liquidity, and then it unravels, it goes up, right? So they start selling this, and they always sell after they take their position, of course, and that's legal for them to do that. It's not insider trading. And it's not manipulation because they already took their position, though in some cases it is, and it really is. So here they're talking about this, and you can see in all these other positions when we were oversold, and then the position unwound, then the dollar skyrocketed here. And here's the line of comparison they're using here. When we're oversold again, then those positions, there's nobody else to come in. Everybody was already short. There's nobody else to be short. Everybody was already short. So then the position unwinds and it skyrockets again back up to 90 here. And then here we go again. Over here in 2021, you had an oversold position. And then what happens? It unwinds and then it skyrockets here from 90 all the way up to 115 on the index.
It's almost like the short positions know that this is going to happen.
Yeah, and people study these charts. Top traders and all these investment banks, they understand this history, and they look at this continuously, just like I do. And that's where I learned it from top traders in Wall Street. And I used to trade full time. I traded for 3 years and studied with the best traders in the world, massive groups of them that worked as professional traders in Wall Street for 25 years. And we had live sound feeds right on the stock market floor the entire time as we're trading around the market, and many people access to people in there. So, and this is what they do, and they understand this very well, and they don't listen to they don't listen to these gold bug sellers that are brainwashing everybody in the retail market. They don't listen to Jim Cramer. They're not going to their news for this kind of stuff. They go to the history of the markets and the fundamentals of the markets. They really understand how things work. And then you have all right, so don't let the dollar doomers manipulate you. 90 to 95 on the DXY in general is a stable, strong value for the US dollar. We're up here at 100 to 102. So the dollar is very, very strong right now compared to the other main currencies. It's incredibly strong. people should not be worrying about it. We could, if the dollar goes down a little bit, it'll be back in its normal range. The dollar is generally trading in the 90 to 95 range. It's not generally up here in the 100 to 102. It is very strong. And when the dollar is stronger, that means American products and exports are more expensive. So that's good. That's not good for us to sell our exports internationally, right? But there's a double-edged sword there also, because if the dollar's strong, then we can buy more imports from China, and they're very cheap to buy all these other foreign-made goods. So we win when the dollar's strong, because we can buy more cheap goods and make our country richer, right? Your dollar's worth more. But then you lose on the exports. But when the dollar goes back down, your goods are cheaper to sell to the world, but then you can't buy as much internationally. So it's like, okay, so then because there's a win on both sides, the dollar balances out in international trade, right? So it should more about keeping the financial house in order and all of the other benefits of America. And then when we see, this is important to understand here too, in this section, when the dollar was lower, when it was below 90, and even down in here in the 85 level, when it was below that, you had economic challenges, the most significant economic challenges. And the person that showed this chart, they showed this short chart, and this is going around the dollar doomers. They're showing this short chart, trying to slander America. So what I did is I overlaid the actual dollar index on top of here, which is this green and red chart. I overlaid it on top so you can actually understand what's actually going on, and they're not showing that. So here in this period, in this red box, is the 2007 to 2014 global financial collapse, when the last time the real estate bubble popped, and then we saw the currency drop because the real estate bubble popped. Then you had a bond crisis, you had this financial liquidity crisis. So then the dollar came down due to that environment. But it was swinging between 75 and 90, right? It's a stable, strong value range. It was still swinging in there. And then we had this return from 2007 to 2014, 7 years before. Really, it was 2014 before we really came out of the global financial crisis, and then the dollar rocketed up to 100 immediately after that. But the only reason it was down this low in the first place is because we had the global financial crisis. So they're trying to repeat that. That's the goal of these big investment banks, these Rothschild central bankers, and so on. They're trying to make this happen again. They're trying to pop the housing bubble. That's why they're pushing the mortgage rates to 7% to kill the new home buyer demand. That's what they're trying to do. So you don't want to let them do that. So Trump, quantitative easing can help, and it's good that they're doing that ahead of time. This is an interesting chart that helps people understand the stock market. As I was saying, the stock market this is the bubble of record bubbles in all of history. We'll just show this for a second here. Is a 75-year high in U.S. stocks, right? And not only a 75-year high in U.S. stocks and record high in U.S. stocks, but a 75-year high in U.S. stocks versus the rest of the world. So the international, the price of American stocks compared to international stocks is higher than it's ever been, way higher than it's ever been. I mean, it's just out of control, the bubble. And every value investor in the world, from Grantham to Charles Brandis investment firm, they're all focusing on this, and they're all recommending international stocks over American stocks because you want to buy low and sell high, and then rebalance into cheap. Go bargain hunting, right? Go buy the cheap stocks. And right now the international equities are cheap, and right now the international currencies are cheap, because the dollar doomers have lied to your face for 52 years, 113 years, 248 years that the dollar is going to collapse. No, it didn't collapse. All the other currencies collapsed against the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar is stronger than it's ever been internationally. So you have cheap currencies worldwide in all these countries, like Argentina as an example. People know that one, right? You have cheap currencies and high global growth, and expensive U.S. stocks, it only makes sense that all of these investors in the world, investors, are going to sell some holdings in America and invest in these cheap currencies in the stocks internationally, right? It makes perfect sense. Sell the expensive American dollar, buy these really cheap currencies and cheap stocks. So it makes sense to diversify. So people should diversify. And we saw the first leg down here when the tariffs came in, minus 21%, which is officially a bear market. A bear market begins when there's a 20% decrease, and then how long is the actual recovery period, and then how long does the bear market actually last? And generally, bear markets only last 11 months. Generally, only last 11 months is how long they last. So you have 21% decrease, and it just snapped back immediately. But I think we're, historically, and with these valuations and these situations, I think the stock market, as I said before, it has to go back down. It has to go down to somewhere in the 4,400 level, somewhere in here. It has to go back down there.
But AI.
Yeah, they're saying this, but AI is as Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, he's saying that AI is not adding anything to the economy in terms of economic growth. Right? He said it's a disaster for economic growth. It's not working out, and it's eroding the economy.
It's sucking up a hell of a lot of energy and polluting the hell out of its surrounding areas where all these data centers are.
Right, and you have 58% of venture capital money being sucked up into it in just scam after mega fraud after mega fraud after mega fraud from Silicon Valley. And so all the money's going away. It's all being vaporized by these people. Nothing else is being invested into. So then you have what's going to happen. Like all of the startup funding is drying up. So you don't have the new jobs coming out. And how long is the cult, the tulip mania of fake intelligence going to continue amongst the venture capital industry? How long are they going to do this? And so who knows? It might go on a couple of years. It's just a massive Ponzi scam, and it's always. But there's never been any cult like this where 60% of VC money is chasing the same widget and ignoring all of the other needs of the entire economy and the world economy wholesale.
AI, it's the AI. They'll scream AI at you.
Sentience. It's smarter than all of humanity combined, right? And they call that the Silicon Valley consensus. They call it the Silicon Valley consensus because only Silicon Valley believes that. Nobody else does, but they all do. Yeah,
they're transhumanists. They really are in a cult of they believe in the singularity and all of this insanity.
Right. So another couple items on this chart is just that the stock market, the American stock market and economy is incredibly resilient. We look at this is 2000. This is the dot-com bubble back here, and even though that massively popped, you have just a couple years of the decline, and then you have a full recovery, right? But it took some time there to hit the full recovery, right? 2000 to 2007, before then you had the financial crisis and collapse, and then a recovery again, and then you have the massive full recovery from that. And here's even Fraudbit, right? I mean, it barely did anything, and the stock market is taking off, and the stock market has done incredibly well. And what did we have during this period? We had quantitative easing. We had QE 1, 2, 3, QE infinity, and then these other issues. And what has happened in the process over the last 20 years that we had record printing? You have record wealth creation in America, record high stock markets that have, right, from 1,000 up to 6,000. You have 6 times the valuation of the entire American stock market. So people say, oh, although the printing was no good, it was so terrible. They're endlessly, this is just such overwhelming, one-sided, total brainwashing. Millions of people, like seemingly, though it's not, though they get all the attention in the marketing, right? These thousands of people all in unison screaming this bullshit. And quantitative easing in the printing and the expanding of the balance sheet has created more wealth. I mean, America's the envy of the world, right? Everybody wants to move to America, relocate to America. Every venture capitalist demands the startups move to America. Why? Because all of the money's there, all the investments there, all of the finances there, and it is like that. So it's the printing has created more economic wealth than anywhere, and no other countries have this function and feature to the level that America has. And this is a massive financial advantage for America that is unprecedented, underrated. This chart here is 150 years of S&P 500 returns, and I wanted to show this here. Between 20 to 30% a year in growth in valuation of the stock market, and we have 3 of those highest ever returning years, between 20 and 30% just in the last couple of years, 2021, 2023, and 2024. And this year is doing okay, but you have that massive peak there. And I doubt you'll really surpass that by very much with the state of affairs of all of these elites staying out. But 3 of the last 4 years here, prior to 25, which we're not even halfway through yet, have been a 20 to 30% stock market return year. It is massive. It is so high and so high performance. We're due for a down year, right? Aren't we due for a down year with all of this trade tariffs and everything else? And we're simply due for a down year and some profit taking, and then some diversification into international markets, because the world is 300 countries, 8 billion people. These people, they're going to invest, and many investment firms, they're going to start investing internationally, as I said, into cheap currencies and cheap stocks. They're going to start to sell some of this and do some rebalancing because it's just crazy how high it's gotten. This is, and the concentration amongst this massive bubble, the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500 are 37% of the actual stock market valuation. 37%. The top 10 stocks out of 500 stocks make up 37% of the valuation. It's never been so high before. Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Alphabet, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, Berkshire Hathaway, Eli Lilly, JP Morgan, and Broadcom. These 10 companies make up more than a third, almost 40% of the entire stock market valuation. So, and that's not right. If those turn down, if there's any downturn in the valuation of those stocks at all, then you're going to drive down the stock market. So those are very important barometers to look at where the stock market's going. And all of these big investment firms, they know that and they're watching that, but they never talk to the public about this, right? And here's one on the GDP that people are talking about. Of course, you have Bloomberg, Bloomberg is like CNN now. It's just nonstop Trump hate. You can barely watch it.
That's weaponized news, nonstop Trump hate.
It's just such a rag. Bloomberg is really degraded compared to it used to be awesome. I watch it every day when I was trading for years and continuously before that as well. And now, like, it's just a fraction, 0.1% as good as it used to be. It's just nonstop political bullshit endlessly. But so they don't get into this. They're endlessly slamming, oh, the GDP is declining and whatnot. And what they don't tell people, right? So here, mine is 0.3%, right? Oh, you have a recession, which would be 2 quarters of negative growth, would be an official recession, right? And they're trying to convince people that we're in a recession, and it's likely that we'll go into some kind of small recession due to the import issue. And most people don't understand, when you put on trade tariffs and then you reduce the imports, here's an import reduction, right, of 5 percentage points. That import reduction is measured in the GDP. So it's not that America is producing any less. That's not happening. What's happening is the imports that are coming into America, the imports coming in are counted as economic activity because it's a trade transaction. And since that's counted as an economic activity, it's artificially bringing down the GDP of America and then affecting the credit and everything else and posting a negative number. But you look at the investment is 3.6 percentage points. It's huge. It's massive, right? Consumer spending is very strong. in first quarter 2025, it's up 1.2 percentage points. Consumer spending. It's been pretty decent so far. So this kind of rigs the numbers in some respect. So if you don't have somebody teaching you like this, then you're very easily manipulated by this, right? Bloomberg networks, and they were manipulating people on this, and it just drive me crazy. So I had to show this to people. And here we have some more data, a great chart. This is from Brandis Investment Partners, which is a famous value investment firm. They've done incredibly well, one of the best performing firms over the last 35 years, 40 years. And here we have the S&P 500, which is this bar here. It's massive outperformance relative to the international markets. And the outperformance is 339% more than the international markets. Is is this the state that we are right now? And this will flip-flop back and forth, where you have sometimes the international markets are doing better and sometimes the American markets are doing better, right? But we go through the cycle length in months. For 200 months, the U.S. Stock market has been outperforming. 200 months, right? There's 12 in a year, 120 in 10 years. So we've had a massive bull run market in America for 14 years, 13 years, 14 years. And it's due for some balancing where the international markets will outperform the American stock markets now for probably several years, especially on this bubble. So that's another factor why, right, I'm saying that there needs to be some relief and some stock market going down. And that's why all of these elites have sold all their stock. All of the big value investors have sold their stock, right? Jeremy Grantham has sold all his stock, another value investor.
Warren Buffett.
Right. Everybody has, they're all dumping their stock, Harry Dent and all of these other guys. So here again, recently the U.S. market outperforming, and the whole world, excluding the United States, is underperforming relative to the U.S. market. You want to sell your overperformers and buy the underperformers. And here's the international stock market returns. A lot of diversity. So this is the highest in the year. And due to all of the cash that we sent to Israel in the year 2024, Israel was literally the highest performing stock market in the entire world, as America was just endlessly flooding this tax-free money into Israel, right? While they're doing their massive criminal bombing campaign, and the Israel stock market up almost 40%. How about that? Do you feel good about funding the Zionist stock market, folks? That's where your money's going, right?
Yes, we love genocide in America.
So this shows by year international equity returns, and it's a lot of diversification. Different countries are leading at different times, but you can see here, 2024 down to 2009, since America came out of the global financial crisis, America's really been leading. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years since then. America has just absolutely exploded in growth and been one of the leading stock markets, and just run away on everything else. But there was a lot more diversity in international markets prior to that, and we're going to see some return to that, to the emerging markets. And we look at how fast the GDP is growing in some of these other markets. Guyana grew, like their forecast is to grow 20% a year from 2024 to 2029. That's the forecast. Mozambique, 8%, Rwanda, 7%, Bangladesh, 7%.
They've discovered, a lot of oil there. Yeah, that's what's driving in Guyana.
Right, and gold and all these materials.
It's still an unstable region there, though, because Venezuela may want to just go take it.
Right. There's some conflicts and issues already. India, 6.5% growth. Vietnam, 6.4% growth. Right, in massive Chinese investment and massive $100 billion a year. $100 billion a year. America is funding into Vietnam just out of the military budget is going in there. What the hell are we spending all this money in Vietnam for? And what do we have to show for that? I don't know. But there's all of these countries are growing more. And then when we look at the stock market participation rate is important as well for people to understand both the strength of the U.S. economy and why the market is so strong and why there's so much demand for American stocks around the world and why there's so much success in America. And
it's because of the U.S. tax code incentivizes investing in the stock market through your 401k and other tax avoidance plans, or you will be taxed. So incentivizes putting your money in there.
Right, 55% of Americans have shares; they're shareholders. So when you go to work, you have your 401ks, your IRAs, all of this forced, regular, every single check contribution into these plans. So there's more American people buying stocks every 2 weeks, every month, every week. Whenever they're doing it, there's more Americans buying stocks than any other country in the world per capita, and it's not even close. I mean, you go down, to 20 countries, it's down to 8%. Americans are like 5, 6, 7 times more likely. Down to Morocco here is like 1%. I mean, Cambodia is the investment industry is like non-existent in Cambodia, right? Vietnam is 16%, and right next door is nothing. They don't very few investors. Right, in these developing countries. So what country has a hope of having any kind of competition relative to U.S. stocks? If you're a big investor, you're going to invest in the big companies in America, right? There's not a Vietnam phone company in Vietnam. You're right. You're using Apple. Everybody wants to use Apple, so they buy Apple stock in America, and then it becomes the biggest stock in the world because of these different products, right? If you're going to use Starlink in your country, of course, you're going to buy Starlink stock, and that's in America. So you have all of this investment capital flowing into America. No other country has that. And when people talk about, well, the dollar's going to instantly collapse and de-dollarize, these people don't understand anything about any of these factors. This is endlessly going to prop up America until these countries are developed enough where they actually have an investing culture. America is the #1 investing culture in the world.
They're working on it, but it's a long time to develop BRICS as the most prominent example. But I do agree with you; it's going to take a long time to develop the same type of economy as America has developed over the last 100 years.
Yeah, even Canada is. Let's go back. Canada's #2, and you go up and right. Canada's #2. And you go up there, you talk to these people, they don't care about the stock market. They don't give a crap about that. They have, their 401k, their IRA, it's called RRSP, it's just a different name, same stuff. And they're buying, a lot of these Canadian stocks in general, and then some American content. They're buying a lot of Canadian stocks. But they don't have the culture. There's nowhere near the investment culture. There's nowhere near the startup culture. Nobody cares. The average Canadian wants to go buy like some, farm in the middle of nowhere. They want to go buy some forest land in the hills, whatever. They don't care about investing. It's just not. It's not their interest. They don't give a crap about this. Americans, the culture is so completely different. Australians don't give a shit about the shares market. They don't watch that. They don't study that. It's so rare. Even in the United Kingdom, there's very few people that ever talk about these issues. Though you have London, the London stock market is big. There's nowhere remotely close to the culture of the American culture, business culture, investment culture. I mean, it's just everything in there. There's nothing like this, and there will be nothing like this comparable to the American stock market in terms of culture of these countries for guarantee minimum for another 20 years. Nobody will be remotely close. It's going to be impossible. People, all of these countries, they really need to embed investor education and investor culture into their education system from a very early rate, and put all these programs into place in the market like America has, or they're never going to have this. They're never going to have the financial power that America has. It's just never going to happen. And people don't understand that. It's just such a massive draw. And they say that the US dollar is backed by nothing. It's backed by this. It's backed by these systems. It's backed by all these factors. Here's the 60 years of American stock market cycles. There's massive booms, and then there's a recession, right? A bear market, minus 20% or more is a bear market, and it never stays there for a very long time. So even though
it's up to our monetary policy. If the Federal Reserve wants to pump the market, it will. If it wants to contract it, it will. And so
Right.
they're the ones engineering the boom and bust cycle, the business cycle.
Right. They juice it right out of, okay, there's a problem. We're going to juice the market again. And there's no country that really has, they don't have these financial system. They have that basic mechanism, but there's so many different things that the Fed actually does that other countries are not doing. Europe and the ECB are not doing it the same way that America's doing it. It's run so much better in the American system, and there's so much more of it in the American system, right? And you have the Christian values, the transparency, accountability, the rule of law, the policing. You have a lot of this, and it's very strong in America. There's nowhere else like this. China is just a cesspool of criminality everywhere. Right, Eastern Bloc of Europe, half of these countries have this massive crime. I mean, Africa, the African markets, the famous PwC scandals, where even right, PwC were totally bribed. All of these officials, billions of dollars in their basements, in their houses, caught. So it's there's nothing like that.
But Ukraine's honest, aren't they?
Right, and Ukraine, and it just goes on and on and on all over the world. There's nothing like the American financial system, and there won't be probably in our lifetime. I mean, you can't even imagine it. Maybe Saudi Arabia will build something clean. It's but they're being armed to the teeth right now. They might be next because they're fighting in the International Criminal Court right now, International Court of Justice, against Israel, trying to get Israel out of Palestine. They're very harsh in their meetings today against Israel for that, and Israel's not going to like that. And you might eventually have a war between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So who knows? And we'll send them another $400 billion for that too, right? So the average bear market was only 11 months. It's 1 year, and stocks dropping average 34%. And if stocks drop from the peak down to 34%, right, from 6,000 minus 2,000, a third, then it would be at 4,000, which is what I'm talking about, right? On average, 4,000 to 4,400. We're in a pretty good situation right now. Probably not going to drop much below that. So some people they're overselling it. They've taken their short positions, their puts. They really want the market to go down so that they can buy in cheaper. So they're telling everybody, oh, it's going to drop 50%. It's going to be the most, right? They're going to fear porn you. And that's what they always do. They take a position in some stock and then they sell it like crazy. If they take a short position, then they're gonna slander this company until the stock collapses and they make all their money. That's what they do, and people forget about that. I found this chart to be fantastic from Brandis Investment Partners about the US dollar strength. And here's another reason why so many people are short US dollar. And this chart goes to a basket of 27 currencies instead of the DXY, which is the dollar index, which is only 6 main currencies. This goes wider into 27 currencies and shows a more comprehensive international chart. And here you can see it's high, low, right? In the 110 range up here, and very cheap down in the 80 range to 75 range, very, very cheap, oversold. And some high here, but average 90 to 95, right in the center, 90, it's a very stable value, as I was saying in here. And it reached up, 110, 112 under the Joe Biden administration here, and then went back up again under Trump to 110, 112. In there, looked like it might have gone to 115. So it's in the high range again. So people are selling. So this is the currency value relative to 27 other currencies. So people say, oh, the dollar's gone down in value, it's worth nothing. No, it's very, very strong. It's been very strong against these other currencies. But these people are lying to you because they're selling an agenda, they're selling a product, gold and whatnot. And I want to cover the debt to GDP ratio, which these economists, the anti-Trump, demonocrat, Wall Street, Steens over all of these Steens. It's just Steen after Steen after Steen on Bloomberg. I mean, it's just amazing. It's like they're bringing out every Steen that there is.
It's almost like they're Aardvark bankers running around everywhere.
Yeah, it's like Jeffrey Epstein has a family of 500 people or something, and it's just they're lining all of the Steens up to be the economic experts on Bloomberg now. So they're endlessly screaming about debt to GDP. Oh, the debt to GDP is so high, 123% in America. And this is the biggest PSYOP fraud ever, is to pretend like the economic strength of a country has something to do with the debt to GDP. So this is 123% only of their actual, how much they produce, like their total production. And some economists consider the tax revenue to be the income of a country. Others consider the economic output to actually be the income of a country, the total production, how much you're producing. Now, in your household, and then people say, oh, well, you know, if you compare it to a household, it's right. It's so terrible that we don't have enough income to pay for it. But how much is your production? What do you value your production in the household? You value it based on your income. That's your production, right? But the government is actually different than that. The economy should be valued actually on it should be valued on the GDP, the true measure of the economy. How its production should be valued on the GDP. So to put this in some context, let's say if your income, let's say you have a husband and wife working team, one person's income $60,000, the partner's income is $40,000. That's $100,000 a year. But their house is $1 million. You're in California or New York or Florida, these other places, right? The loan might be 10 times the income in America. It's very common for a lot of people. It's $500,000, $600,000, or $1 million. The mortgage interest may be $4,500 a month because you got a mortgage before it was, jacked up to 7%. So maybe you're 5.5% or something like that, right? And nobody cares. Your income's $8,000. You're going to buy the house. You don't care. You buy the house. Then you also get a car. Oh, $60,000 car. Probably it might be more than that for a lot of people. For $500 a month.
Get a Cybertruck.
Yeah, you're happy with that. Everybody's happy with that. They love it. They get a second car, $50,000 for another $500 a month. They love it. And then they get an investment loan of some kind to increase their tax break every year a little bit. Maybe they have a $60,000 investment loan invested in their 401k for retirement, $500 a month. They're happy with that. They love it. They don't care about being in debt for the $60,000 car, the $50,000 car, the $60,000 in investments, $1 million on a home loan, and then they go borrow another $600,000 to buy another house, and renting that out, get some investment income coming in, and they're happy to take the equity growth, right? And no one complains about this. Everyone says, "Oh, you're in a good track, man." Your financial planner says you're in a good track. You're just fine. But nobody's screaming that you're going to collapse. Nobody's screaming.
I am.
Right. So your debt is 1.77 million, and your GDP is
your household is not doesn't have the ability to
they're affording it
to create money out of nothing, as does the U.S. Federal Reserve.
Right. So which is a huge disadvantage for the household, right? Yeah. Relative to, so the Federal Reserve has that massive tool. They have a printing press. They can just print up more income whenever they want, right? Which is a massive. So your debt is 1.77 million. Your GDP is only 136,000. So your debt to GDP ratio is 1,300%. And no one cares. They'll all say, "Wow, good for you. I wish I was doing that. I wish I had the second house." But the government's debt to GDP is only 123%. Yours is 10 times what the government says, and nobody is screaming that they're going to collapse and there's going to, right? This would be like a debt of $160,000 total debt, household debt. Would you claim there's a debt crisis of the average American household?
Yes,
and then they have the printing press, right? So so that's showing some perspective. This is some GDP growth rate forecasts for international economies. Well, America is expected by many economists to be in a slight recession, just mainly, again, as I showed, due to the reduction in imports, which is kind of artificially showing supposedly that America is in an actual recession. But if the GDP rate is 3% in America, you can see India is projected to grow more than double that, and many countries, and this is many countries. This is just a list of only this. This does not include all of the 300 countries around the world. Many countries growing faster than America. Here's Cambodia. 2024 grew 6.25% and is projected to grow between 6 to 7%. Most economists saying it'll grow 7% a year in 2025. And industrial growth, 8.6% industrial sector anticipated to grow about 8.6% due to the expansion of manufacturing. So there's and here's the U.S. equity versus international equity returns. So America, international stocks overperforming, then America overperforming, then international stocks overperforming, America overperforming, international stocks overperforming, America overperforming, and then we should have a period of time where international stocks are going to overperform again. That makes a lot of sense. So it's a very smart, very wise for people to rebalance, sell the highs, and then we can pause there, and I'm going to pull up a gold chart to show people. So we'll pull out of this on my presentation here, and then I will show so you can maybe cover another couple points in the news there, and then I'll bring up these two other charts to cover the gold chart, and then I'll cover the 18-year real estate chart.
All right, let's move on to geopolitical news. It turns out that apparently it was not that bad. India and Pakistan are not shooting each other anymore. They agree to withdraw troops and weapons along the Kashmir border by the end of this month. Pakistan officials confirmed the plan, signaling a rare thaw in one of the world's most volatile flashpoints. And so that is good news that it did not escalate. It looked for a minute there where they're saying they're shooting down each other's planes. Who knows how much of that was just propaganda and lies to pump up each other's militaries. But looks like they're backing off there in India and Pakistan, which is good news indeed. We have clips from Rubio today as we await what is going to go on. The Russia, Ukraine, I think it was Denver saying that yesterday's show that Russia, Putin keeps on saying these are the points I need for a peace deal, but it's always ignored in reporting, and it's just Putin bad, Russia bad. And so that was a good point. I think it was Denver made, I saw in the chat yesterday, and that is indeed true. It's ignored here now. But strangely enough, today, after the praise by Trump of the radical jihadist terrorist, now reformed, president of Syria, famous for cutting off Christians' heads there in Syria and others. It turns out that little Marco is saying that Syria could be weeks away from a civil war as the state may collapse again, in Senate testimony given today by little Marco, Secretary of State of America. And so, yeah, I don't know what to really make of this, but we do know that this guy was formerly wanted. How long ago was this? Not that long ago. This is your reformed radical jihadist terrorists. They're wanted by the United States for terrorism. And Trump's praising him as a good-looking young man who's strong, right? And so just a very bizarre, strange change of events here. Just months ago, the U.S. had a $10 million bounty on Syria's current president, al-Sharara. It's just so ridiculous here. But not ridiculous for all the people he's murdering there in Syria. That is quite serious indeed. Are you ready yet, or shall we continue on with Marco?
Yeah, we're ready to go here.
Okay.
So here is this is a fantastic chart. I knew I had something very special the first time that I saw this, which was the first time I saw this was got to be getting on 30 years ago. I saw it when I was a teenager. And so here's, it says periods when to make money. So here we have every 18 years, you have a collapse. You have a stock market collapse. And this goes all the way back. Here's in 1931 in the pit after the 1929 stock
the Roaring 20s. The Roaring 20s, yes.
Right, all the way back to the bottom of the market in 1931, in 1942.
The Great Depression.
Right, 1951, 58. And this continues repeating, right? 2005, 6, 7, whatnot. And then there's the additional times where you get possibly some bounce, some rebound into the center, then a second dip. And how many years between these collapses? 7 years, 11 years, 9 years, 11 years, 7 years. So, right, 9/11, but sometimes a 7. Sometimes it's not exactly.
But see, they say the bottom at 23. That didn't happen. So we're due. Like you keep saying, we're due.
Right. We're definitely due, and it's overdue because of the Trump effect in 2016 screwed things up. They had it right. There's a 2016, and they were supposed to turn it over in 2016 down into the dump, but then Trump got in there, and then they have messed with it, so they're off calendar here, and that's what they're trying to get back into this, to dump the stocks, dump the real estate, and this is what the elites have used endlessly. And they all work together and orchestrated this together.
Are you saying there's a conspiracy?
Yeah, it's clearly they were caught endlessly rigging the market, rigging the gold market, rigging the oil market, endlessly rigging the gold market. Here's some more rigging of the gold market here. And as I showed, the dollar is over short, right? Oversold and over short. Gold longs are over long. 60% is the most crowded trade in the entire international financial world right now. There's more people long gold than ever before. It's just way over leveraged. There's more leverage into gold than anything else, and more people long gold. And that's right. And there's been more propaganda to buy gold, and more screaming people to buy gold, the world's coming to an end. More of this kind of people than ever before. More advertising, and that's because they're trying to dump it all on retail so that you're their exit liquidity and they can get out. And here's the gold chart, right, going back to 2011, 12 in here. And the last time when they rigged the gold price up to 1950, endlessly lying to everybody, and got caught, and their gold trading licenses got pulled because of the massive scandal that they did. JP Morgan, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, and everybody across. And they were doing the same massive propaganda campaign on retail everywhere. And meanwhile, they're selling all the gold holdings to all of those retail, and they're getting out, and they have all of their clients getting out and selling at the same time that they're promising you it's going to 2,500 and 3,000 and everything else. And they sold it down, right? Sold it all the way down to 1,100 in here. And then the gold price ground down in the ground endlessly as we're recovering out of the global financial crisis, right, from 2008 and into 2014, and then the stock market skyrocketed and whatnot, and then you had some slow recovery in gold, and gold was sitting in here from the peak in like 2012 all the way to 2019, right? 7 years, 8 years before it actually came back again. 8, 9 years, 9 years of dead prices where there's no return in gold at all in this massive trough. So people who want to buy gold and hold more gold maybe over the next 20, 30 years, it makes sense to wait for lower prices. And now you have the record skyrocket, ballooning high, like double in price, 100% gain. And then you have these massive...
What's the famous saying when you hear the taxi cab driver and the shoe shine boy say, get in the market, it's time to get out of the market?
Yeah, and you have these are called needles on the chart, right? Inverted hammers on a chart. These are needles here. When you see these needles, you see the price go down. Needle, the price goes down. Hammer, the price goes up. Hammer here, the price going up. Needle, the price is going down. This is one of the most common start. Needle, the price going down. Double needle is even worse as an indicator. These are some of the chart patterns, the reversals. So the price went up like crazy, and then it reversed very strongly down.
They're taking profits at that point.
Yeah, and it's reversing that. Okay, we need to sell here, and then they're putting shorts on. They're dumping it, all the exit liquidity, all of the marketing to retail, dumping it on retail, and then the price going up again, and then a massive reversal again. They're selling this down. They want the price to go the other way. They're dumping this like crazy. They're all exiting their positions way up here. And then, as they're preparing, quantitative easing is going to gas the markets. It's going to put huge juice under the stock markets, international equity markets. Maybe something settles with Russia, Ukraine, possibly. Who knows? That will settle the markets as well, settle things down for security. There's no problem fundamentally with the U.S. economy. There really isn't, especially with Trump in the market. So this is way overdue to come back down in here, and they're orchestrating the same rigging that they did, the same manipulation here. They're doing it again right here, folks. Don't get caught in it. If you have massive gains in gold, enjoy it. Sell. Take the profit off the table. Diversify into something that's cheap. Do what Buffett does. Sell high, buy low. Wait for a better position here after a year, 2, 3 years when gold comes back down. That's really going to be much better for you. Remember, gold doesn't make any interest. There's no interest. There's no dividends. There's no nothing. You're just holding this in a naked speculation on the price of this metal. It's a very weak thing, a very weak position where stocks are earning 10 to 15 to 20 to 30% profit margin every year. Gold gets 0 profit margin every year. You're just holding a piece of rock. So actually invest in an actual business. You're going to be much more successful doing that.
But it's shiny.
Yeah, it's shiny. Well, it finances the Rothschild, so that's how I'm going to own the Fed, is literally buy the Rothschild bankers bars and finance them at record prices and be.
Hey, are we ever going to get the audit of Fort Knox that we were promised?
Yeah, well, that's one way to sweep it under the rug. That holy shit, there's no gold in there. Lutnick, what did you and Cantor Fitzgerald do with all of the gold in there? And now, very interestingly enough, and I was wondering, what the hell does Trump have Lutnick so close to him, and bringing Lutnick with so much responsibility when he was one of the top World Trade Center guys, best friend of Silverstein, and conveniently missed work that day that the towers fell, when he never missing work. Very strange. And Cantor Fitzgerald, known for the big financial trading, one of the firms implicated in the insider trading, and now Trump is saying he doesn't want to do the sovereign wealth fund. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. It's like, and people say Trump brings in these, bring your enemy, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, bring them into the administration. And then you got recordings on them. They're surveilled, everything that's happening. Is he doing one of these to Lutnick? I don't know what the hell's going on, because now he's backing out of the sovereign wealth fund and said, what we really should do, what I really prefer is to pay the debt down. I think maybe we'll wait on the sovereign wealth fund. Why? Because Lutnick's gonna make all this money disappear internationally across his 800 shell companies, and with even more shell companies. Probably. Is Trump wise to that? I hope so. But very strange. Trump is very pro sovereign wealth fund, and now he doesn't want to do it. So it's completely opposite to everything he's been for in the last 20 years, and now he's going to stop it, right? And that is very, very. There's something going on there that Trump he knows. This is not the right team. This is not the right direction.
Something Otherwise, is going on there.
He would never stop that. He would never stop this. And having this sovereign wealth fund in the hands of somebody like this, who's got endless money laundering cases amongst his companies, convictions all over the place throughout his spider web, and this massive, obscure, hidden spider web. And he's removing all these financial regulations, removing all the transparency completely, and then, and then he's going to be in charge of the sovereign wealth fund, and he's got this endless spider webs. It couldn't be somebody independent that doesn't have these conflicts of interest, that doesn't have what looks like the Panama Paragon papers of our era, I mean, 800 shell companies. There were not 800 shell companies in the Panama papers or Paragon papers. I mean,
there you go. Look at this report, Marco. Watch. Trump gives kiss of death to sovereign wealth fund. Howard likes the idea.
Yeah.
Oh man,
very strange for Trump to go against.
That's a great headline right there. That's hilarious.
Right.
Okay, on to the geopolitical news. Thank you very much for that economic segment. The chat seems to have liked it. Thank you, chat, for sticking with us. It gets kind of boring after a while. I think Thomas laid it out very well for us. Okay, here's little Marco today testifying. I don't know what committee, some Senate committee. Here he is confirming we are still, as in U.S. government, is still arming Ukraine.
Intelligence sharing and with military equipment and arms that they need to help fight this war.
Well, that continues. There was a pause for 1 week. All of that was restarted.
That was intelligence sharing, though, but it doesn't cover the equipment and arms.
Oh, absolutely. That program has not been rescinded. They continue to receive armaments from the United States.
To fund what the Ukrainians need as the president, and are you prepared to pass another supplemental bill to support them?
Well, that's a different decision. That's a different question. That's not up for me to decide. The White House would have to make a determination about whether to come to Congress for a supplemental. But everything that's been approved and congressionally appropriated is ongoing. In fact, to the extent that the Ukrainians have asked for anything additional, what they've asked for is air defenses, Patriot units, which frankly we don't have. But we are working closely with our NATO.
Well, isn't that wonderful? And then here's little Marco on the Syria situation. Let's listen to this.
If you look at the history of the region, when Syria is unstable, the region becomes unstable. And this has certainly been true after the Arab Spring led to the Assad rebellion against Assad, and that really destabilized the entire region. And then it turned Syria, frankly, into a playground for jihadist groups, including ISIS and others, that used it to operate and to destabilize their partners. So you have this change in December. And my view, which I've discussed with many of you individually, is the bad news is that the transitional authority figures, they didn't pass their background check with the FBI. Okay? They've got a tough history and one that we understand. But on the flip side of it is, if we engage them, it may work out, it may not work out. If we did not engage them, it was guaranteed to not work out. In fact, it is our assessment that, frankly, the transitional authority, given the challenges they're facing, are maybe weeks, not many months, away from potential collapse and a full-scale civil war of epic proportions, basically the country splitting up. The good news is that there is a Syrian national identity. It is one of the places in the Middle East where Alawis and Druze and Christians and Sunni and Shia have lived along, and Kurds have lived alongside each other underneath the banner of a Syrian identity until it was broken by a butcher, Assad, who pitted them against each other. So they face a number of challenges.
So the State Department is saying there's going to be a civil war in Syria like any day. That's freaking crazy. Okay. And then
and who's really orchestrating that? I mean, right? They've been orchestrating.
This guy looks like I've been saying this guy's a Western intelligence agent. That's the only thing that explains why the hell they would let him off the hook for his alleged $10 million reward on his head a couple months ago. And then now all of a sudden he's a good-looking, young, strong man, according to Trump.
Oh, the new Osama bin Laden, right? So they of course, they orchestrated the overthrow of Assad endlessly for, I mean, how many, like 20 years already they've been at this. And, right, it's their doing. Of course, they'll blame it on somebody else, as they always do. Right, and then, hey, the butcher, Assad, who, I mean, the country was completely fine until they started doing this regime change operation in Syria as part of the laid out plan, of course, that was exposed by the American generals after 9/11.
Look at this! Look at this! Look at this report. Reuters: Syria leadership approved return of dead spy archive to Aardvark land. And so, I thought this guy's a extreme a radical jihadist who's supposed to hate the Aardvarks, but all of a sudden they're working together and returning spy archives to Aardvark land. That don't make no damn sense unless this guy's working for them. You know what I'm saying? It make no damn sense. They're all Western intelligence here now.
Yeah, and of course the so-called butcher. Remember the endless numbers of lies and even the fake gassings, that they claimed that he did.
Chemical weapons attacks, yeah.
Right, using sarin gas, which is actually one of the metabolite products of remdesivir, is sarin gas inside of there, which of course Donald Rumsfeld of Gilead, who made remdesivir, Gilead made it. They would know that sarin gas is one of the metabolite products in there. So as he was endlessly, as Rumsfeld, working with Gilead and Bill Gates, endlessly propagating that Assad and Saddam Hussein supposedly used chemical weapons against their own people, then they're designing these chemical weapons literally to use against the Americans. and they use it on, oh, it's a Ebola drug, right? They're using these chemical weapons over in Africa. And of course, 73% of those people were murdered when they gave them remdesivir. And then, hey, look, of course, they're going to use that on the Americans, and nobody's talking about this. It's just so outrageous. And Congress is not going after.
We reported on it extensively here at Weaponized News, and don't you worry, the medical freedom people of the family and friends of the victims, they're not going to ever stop, and so it's going to come to a head at some point here now. And there's a lot of them out there still that, and even more are becoming more aware about what actually all went down. And so, yeah. Okay, let's continue on the geopolitical front here. I guess this is recent. Julian Assange back on the world stage after his imprisonment of 15 years or something. Here he is at Cannes Film Festival. This is a shirt of the names of the 5,000 children that have been killed in Aardvark land since October, the worst attack in the history of the world, the October attack there. And so these are the names on the front of his shirt, but the back of his shirt, look what it says right there, Stop Aardvarks on the back of his shirt. He wore an overshirt there, but Stop Israel written on the back, it says. So still representing out there, Julian Assange is. Here's Information Liberation. Trump, after rearming Aardvarks, frustrated with Netanyahu for expanding war, according to a report now out of Axios. So now we had the unconfirmed, I think it's still unconfirmed, but let's show this because they want the narrative is now that Trump is souring on Aardvarks genocide. And so this is the main reporter out of Axios, this guy, big Aardvark. He says, President Trump is frustrated with the war in Gaza, upset by images of suffering Palestinian children, and has sent a message to Aardvark Prime Minister, Shadow President of America, Netanyahu. He wants he wants him to wrap it up. White House officials told this guy Barak Ravid of Axios, and so supposedly he has the inside scoop on all this. I'm still not buying it, but that's the narrative they're creating out there, building off of the anonymous source that told the Washington Compost a day or two ago. Sweden seeks EU sanctions targeting specific Aardvark ministers. They say, quote, this is a quote from the Sweden foreign minister. They say, since we don't see clear improvement for the civilians in Gaza, we need to raise the tone further. We will therefore now also push for EU sanctions against individual Aardvark ministers. And so that's obviously blood libel, anti-Semitic, the same routine that we know and love from God's chosen people. And that's the counter to Sweden here now, calling for sanctions on individual ministers. UN says no aid yet distributed in Gaza as international pressure on Aardvark land mounts. And that's the BBC reporting there, as they said they let some aid in yesterday. Let's hear now top EU diplomat calls for a review of EU Aardvark Land Association Agreement.
Got no sound there, Sam. Not coming through.
Sorry about that.
So it is clear from today's discussion that there is a strong majority in favor of review of Article 2 of our association agreement with Israel. So we will launch this exercise, and in the meantime, it is up to Israel to unblock the humanitarian aid, saving lives.
Oh, it's only been like two and a half, 3 months, and they finally like, wait a minute, we can't the world can't see images of them literally starving them to death. That's just too much. UK now is stepping up as well, surprisingly here, because they realize that the backlash is going to be too much if you continue to back this genocide. UK sanctions godmother of Aardvark land settler movement, and we featured her on the I forget even that old BBC documentary, Ultra Zionists. Remember her on this? Complete maniac. And so that's her. What's her name again? Daniela Wise. And so she's a complete genocidal maniac. And so that's the leader of the settler movement that we've covered here extensively, where they literally go to their house and put a gun to their head and either kill them or say leave, or we're gonna kill you, and they take their property. And that's what goes on there with the settler movement, the ultra Zionists. UK suspends arms sales to Aardvark land, and so UK is stepping up pressure here now. UK suspends free trade talks with Aardvarks and announces sanctions over West Bank settlers. The AP is reporting here.
But they're not going to sanction the American congressmen who are sending the $400 billion to.
I know. They need to sanction every, basically all of Congress, everybody taking Aardvark lobby bribe money. So they're trying to do something to save face. I think it's too late. Here's our Lord and Savior, Shadow President Bibi yesterday. He says, by asking Aardvarks to end a defensive war for our survival before Hamas terrorists on our border are destroyed, and by demanding a Palestinian state, leaders of London, Ottawa, and Paris, we reported on that yesterday, are offering a huge prize for the genocide attack on Aardvark land on October 7th, while inviting more such atrocities. The war began on October 7th. That's such BS. It's been going on ever since they went there. Anyway, continuing, when Palestine terrorists stormed our borders, murdered 1,200 innocent people, and abducted over 250 more innocents to the dungeons of Gaza. Aardvark land accepts President Trump's vision and urges all European leaders to do the same. The war cannot end tomorrow if the remaining hostages are not released. That's total BS. He's already said they don't care about the hostages. Hamas lays down its arms, its murderous leaders are exiled, and Gaza is demilitarized. No nation can be expected to accept anything less, and Aardvark land certainly won't. This is a war of civilization over barbarism. Aardvark land will continue to defend itself by just means until total victory is achieved. Well, we reported yesterday, they said they're taking it all, and that's it. Operation Gideon, chariots, and so they're taking it all, and that's what they're doing.
And the second commenter there, it says exposing him, his real name is Mile Kowski, right? Just like Mile of Argentina, he is a Mile Kowski related to Bibi Netanyahu.
They're all from Eastern Europe and not even legitimately from where
those selections machines you dare not question. They're the only ones that can never possibly be hacked. So sorry to all of you Coinbase folks. I guess it's all just a figment of your imagination that all of your data was leaked this week.
The UK has suspended its trade talks with Aardvark land.
I guess Coinbase needs to call up Dominion for their IT security.
And Smartmatic. Let's hear from Lammy here. What is this guy? Foreign Minister for UK or something like this.
As the Prime Minister and fellow leaders said yesterday, we cannot stand by in the face of this new deterioration. It is incompatible with the principles that underpin our bilateral relationship. Rejected by members across this House, and frankly, it's an affront to the values of the British people. Therefore, today, I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. As the Prime Minister and fellow leaders said yesterday,
So they're finally...
but definitely nothing to Definitely no sanctions on Chuck Schumer. I mean,
he's a Palestinian, according to Trump. Here's a special U.S. envoy to Aardvarks saying that Washington Post report was fake. I said it was fake too, because they cited anonymous sources.
That sounds like fake news to me. I think the president has maintained a very high degree of support for Israel. He may be saying, hey, listen, let's try to end the war. He may speak strongly, but I think the American president, particularly this president's support, President Trump's support of Israel, is ironclad.
There you go, countering these reports from Washington Compost and Axios. That was Andy Boltler. I don't even know this guy. He's a special U.S. envoy. First, I haven't even seen this guy, but he's countering the fake news there.
You saw Trump made this deal to get this hostage and said to Hamas, and Hamas supposedly has reported that Trump promised a ceasefire deal and a recognition of Palestine to release this one single hostage. And then out came the commentary from the ambassadors of Israel that if the Trump administration, if America recognizes the Palestinian state, right? So any right to exist of a Palestinian state, they literally said, if America recognizes a Palestinian state, then we will take unilateral action against America. Like they literally said that they will declare war against America and against Trump and assassinate Trump. That's a direct threat to Trump, in my view. And nobody's talking about that either, which is quite interesting.
That's just fine. Even Aardvarks, turn on Aardvarks, leader of Aardvark Land's Democrats, Yuri Golan, says IDF killing babies as a hobby. So there you go. I mean, it's even too much for some Aardvarks there in Aardvark Land. It may just be political that he's saying this, but hey, he's putting it out there. And then, of course, the classic. Netanyahu fires back, calling Golan's words despicable, anti-Semitic blood libels. But this is a comedy show or something. I mean, come on, man. You could only play that so long. And then this clip, which I put in the title of the show, the enemy is not Hamas. It's every baby in Gaza is the enemy. Here's former Aardvark Land MK Mossy Fogelin says the quiet part out loud on Channel 14 suggests Aardvark Land needs to conquer and colonize Gaza until there isn't a single Gazan child left in order to achieve victory. Let's watch this short clip. And they have been saying the quiet part out loud quite a bit lately. Sorry, let me, it's in their sore throat language, so we got to take away the bottom scroll so you can see the translation.
אני אומר לך יותר מזה, כל ילד, כל תינוק בעזה הוא אויב. האויב הוא לא החמאס, והוא גם לא הזרוע הצבאית של החמאס, כמו שהפצ"רית שלנו מספרת לנו שאסור לנו לפגוע בחמאסניק, אלא אם כן הוא חלק מהזרוע הצבאית. כל ילד בעזה הוא האויב. אנחנו צריכים לכבוש את עזה וליישבה, ושלא יישאר שם ילד עזתי אחד. אין ניצחון אחר.
There you go. They're born terrorists. Did you send me a link?
I sent you a link for the end of the show. You can, if you don't have a doco, you can end with the song. Killing is my business. Business is good. After the IDF soldiers there who are killing the babies as a hobby. Thought it might be a good ending.
Even other Aardvarks are claiming it, but they're anti-Aardvark and blood libel against our shadow president.
Well, they're subject to arrest in America then, so I guess, right, where's the arrest warrants, right?
They'll tag us with copyright. We got to log off of YouTube if we try to play this. So that is a good outro, though. So thank you, everybody on the YouTube. You're going to miss Megadeth, Killing is My Business, and Business is Good. Indeed. outro, but we got to sign off of the old YouTube here now because they'll tag us for copyright.